So the big news for this project is I was invited to a baby shower next month. And that baby shower just happens to be for my best friend's little sister, which is the craziest thing ever. So her name is also Emily, so that's kind of the running joke, is there's Erica's and Emily's everywhere. So my sister's name is not Erica. That would have been extra weird and funny. Anyways, so Emily is having a baby girl in December, and I got invited to the baby shower next month, and I'm excited, and I wanted to make a quilt, obviously. So I went on her registry and found that she had registered for the Very Hungry Caterpillar book by Eric Carle. And we have a lot of Very Hungry Caterpillar fabric at the shop, and so I figured this is the perfect time. I can finally scratch that itch of wanting to make a Very Hungry Caterpillar quilt. So my problem was figuring out what kind of pattern to do, which of the fabric lines to do. And a lot of it was just going back and forth between, well, do I want to do it this style? Do I want to go this way? I went through some of my old books to find a pattern because I didn't want to just throw myself into like, oh, buying this pattern, oh, buying that pattern, especially with mortgage payments these days. Those are super fun. So I went through this book, which is one that was like one of the first, when I first started quilting again, that I made a couple quilts from. And I'm actually going to be doing a quilt that I've already done because I really liked how it turned out. So I'm going to be doing this. It's called Bugs on the 9 Patch. So it's this quilt. It's got half square triangles and some 9 patch squares with some cute little borders. Find that without the reflection in there. But it's this cute little quilt. It'll be the perfect little playmat size. It's going to end up being 33 by 42, so a perfect little size that I can just use a regular size backing on the long arm. So let me show you my fabric pull for it. I got these. These have nothing to do with it, but I just have to show these because they look like Trixie. So I'm going to make something out of these. This one's probably going to become pillowcases and maybe a face mask because we're still in face mask land. So I went with, instead of just doing the typical print that we have that just has the caterpillar on it, says Very Hungry Caterpillar, or the other one that's just the caterpillars and they're like big caterpillars. I thought since it's a little girl, I was going to do this one with the little hearts. So every block won't necessarily have the caterpillar in it, but it'll have these cute little hearts in the half of the half square triangle. And it's also going to be the outer border, so then it still gets more of that in there and that cute little caterpillarness. And then the other half of the half square is going to be the red because it's super cute and kind of ties in with that nicely to get that cutesy Valentine's-y lovey-dovey feel. And then the 9 patches are going to be the abstract dots to get some other colors in there, and purple because purple makes it a little more girly, and why not? If I did green, I felt like it was going to look really festive. And granted, she's being born in December, but I didn't want a festive quilt. So those are my colors for the front. And then I went ahead and already got my backing because it's perfect. This is the other Very Hungry Caterpillar print that goes with the hearts. We have a bundle that has like I love you, and there's a panel that has this and the little hearts and the red, and it's pretty much actually everything I bought except for like one print, I think. So this is gonna be the back. It's super cute. These kind of look like little cookies. They're red with polka dots. Maybe they are cookies. I don't know. He's a hungry caterpillar. But I ordered the book and it already got here next day. Thank you, Amazon Prime. Not sponsored, but let's talk if you want to be. And so I'm excited to get cutting into this. It's very cute and hungry caterpillar, subtle, and I think it'll come together nice and quickly, and then I can think about how I'm gonna long arm it because this will fit on the long arm super cute. So let's chop up some Very Hungry Caterpillar fabric. bits and pieces for this quilt are ready. We've got our half square triangles, 9 patch, and our outside borders. So now it's time to just start putting things together. So we're gonna start with half square triangles and then move on to 9 patches. All the half square triangles are made, and now I've got to cut my strip sets into pieces and then put them back together so they make the little 9 patches. So that's what's up next, is cutting these into their little skinny bits and putting them back together. Patch pieces are all cut, so now I've got to assemble those. And as you saw, I got out my rotating mat so that I could trim these up, and it just so happened I had the right size square ruler to use. So next up, piece these, and then we start piecing our rows together. I'm already thinking that when I last did this quilt a couple years ago, when I say a couple years, probably like 10 years ago, I was not as efficient as a quilter, as fluent as a quilter as I am now. There are definitely some things that I've noticed while using this pattern that I've come to learn aren't necessarily the way things are written anymore. Like, for example, the first one right off the bat says 5 yards self-made binding or purchase binding. So if I see 5 yards for binding, that initially looks like how much fabric I'm going to need. So if I was a new quilter, I probably would have bought 5 yards of fabric to make binding, or I would have been extremely confused and that. The other thing is it's telling me my block size is 4.5, which cool. I trimmed these down to 4.5 because they had the dog ears and everything like that. And now since I committed to that, I had to trim up my 9 patches. But now what that means is these are all trimmed up and they're currently the same size as this one that lost from seam allowance. So now when I sew these all up, they're gonna go in even 1/4 of an inch more, and they're not going to be true squares. So granted, it will be consistent throughout, but my little 9 patch isn't going to be a nice, perfect little square 9 patch. So now I've got to figure out my layout. I am going to use my design wall to lay this out because I only have probably like 3 blocks that actually have a little caterpillar guy on it. And I want to make sure they're not all clumped in one row. So I'm going to lay out my blocks on there at least to get a good spread of caterpillars throughout. And then we're going to start sewing some rows. Centerpiece is all done, and like I anticipated after trimming, these squares are kind of a little more on the wonky side. Like our middle one is nice and square, and these ones are kind of abstract, I guess, which works with the Very Hungry Caterpillar vibe. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my borders on, and then this is all ready to go. So that's what's going to happen next. Borders and then quilting will be our next video already. How crazy is that? Quilt top is all done. So it went together really easily. Definitely trimming these downs threw off the whole oversized measurement because it's like maybe 2 inches to 3 inches smaller than it says it was supposed to be. But I think it's still a good little baby quilt size for like a crib or taking the car seat and whatever. So next up, I'm going to get this ready to quilt. So our next video, I'll check back in and we'll probably see if I need to Frankenstein some batting together or not. So there you have it, our nice cute little Very Hungry Caterpillar baby quilt.